Next up, let's get our first look at the day's papers today with Erin Ogunki joining me in the studio. Hello there, Erin.
Charlie.
We're starting with the American press and its coverage of the latest development in the Central Park Amy Cooper case.
That's right, Charlie. As a reminder to our readers, Amy Cooper was that white woman from New York who called the police on black man, Christian Cooper. They have the same last name, but there, of course, is no relation between the two. Last summer, and she falsely accused him of threatening her. Now, the entire incident was recorded on camera. It, of course, went viral. It lasted some 45 minutes. And the video shows that not only was she not threatened, but he was bird watching. I think that he had asked her to leash up her dog to respect the kind of biodiversity in that part of the park, which was dedicated to bird watching. Well, she was accused of the misdemeanor charges of filing a false report and faced up to 1 year in prison. On Tuesday, a Manhattan judge dismissed that case, and this because Cooper completed several therapy sessions, which included individual kind of psychological education about racial justice and racial equality. Now, the judge also justified his decision by saying that it reflects their use of restorative justice in cases where it's the first time a person has been arrested or they have no criminal background, which was the case for Amy Cooper. The New York Times took a totally different perspective than the New York Post, saying that the resolution of her case, quote, without a trial or a guilty plea, was for some an anticlimactic ending to an incident that had provided intense discussions across the country about racial justice, and the way that, you know, black people have historically been harmed by false police reports. It's something that has been happening for centuries. Now, indeed, the incident came on the same day that George Floyd was killed, which, of course, that had sparked a national and international reckoning on race relations. It is worth mentioning, though, Charlie, that Christian Cooper himself, the victim of this case, said that he wasn't going to kind of participate in the investigation because he thought that Amy Cooper had already been through enough, believed that she had learned her lesson, and there was no need for any further punishing.
Right, because the public did take things into their own hands with her losing her job, and I mean, this is going to forever be on her Google rap sheet as well. Okay, moving to the French press next, which is covering efforts by Ukrainian officials to counterbalance Russia's influence in the country.
Yeah, that's right, Charlie. It's what today's edition of Le Monde, French paper Le Monde, describes as the battle of the languages. And it's an extensive piece on how Ukrainian authorities are trying to combat Russian aggression by propping up the Ukrainian language. Now, the paper reports that from now on, the services sector in Ukraine, which is the country's largest, will be obligated to communicate only in Ukrainian with its customers and clients. It's easier said than done, even though Ukrainian has been the only official language since the country left the Soviet Union some 30 years ago. But Russian still does dominate the public sphere in big cities, in institutions. The paper noting that in some restaurants you can get menus in Russian and in English, but not in Ukrainian. So by imposing the use of the language, Ukrainian officials, of course, are trying to reinforce the country's national identity, but not only that, also to kind of solidify efforts of recent years to turn Ukraine more towards Europe and away from the Kremlin. Also worth reminding readers that Russia has occupied the formerly Ukrainian territory of Crimea since 2014.
And this battle comes down at the same time that Ukrainian authorities are cracking down on a popular Russian blogger as well. Tell us more about that.
A pro-Russian, a Ukrainian but pro-Russian blogger, Charlie, exactly. The Kiev Post is reporting that on Tuesday, Ukraine's security services charged the popular blogger and politician Anatoly Shary with high treason and hate speech. The Post says that this is, again, a part of the Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky's crackdown on pro-Kremlin forces and individuals in Ukraine. Now, the blogger Shary is actually exiled in Spain. He also obtained refugee status from Lithuania several years ago. He's a popular blogger with 2.4 million subscribers on YouTube, and he targets undeniably a pro-Russian audience. He also created his own political party in 2019. So Ukrainian authorities are accusing him of helping Russia organize publicity campaigns in Ukraine and also of spreading false and manipulated information about the war in the eastern part of the country. It's worth mentioning that he is also accused of inciting hatred, not only against Western Ukrainians, but also against foreigners.
You've also been looking at a very dramatic story getting attention recently. A princess from the United Arab Emirates who says that she's being held hostage by her own family.
Yeah, that's right, Charlie. It's a scary story that British press is covering quite a bit today. Now, Princess Latha, the daughter of the vice president of the UAE and also the ruler of the Dubai Emirate, so her case has made the cover of the Times. That is because, as The Guardian reports, the princess had been using a smuggled phone to send secret videos taken over the past 2 years that claim, indeed, like you say, Charlie, that she is being held hostage in a villa. Now, in the latest video, she even says that if you're watching this video, it means that she's either dead or in a very bad situation. Those videos recently stopped, which have led her supporters to call for international intervention into this case to put pressure on the UAE. Well, the UAE government has claimed that she is safe. She's happy with her family. But past incidents, Charlie, do cast doubt on that defense. That is because Princess Latha had already been captured after attempting to escape in 2018. And her older sister was essentially kidnapped as well in the United Kingdom in the year 2000 and returned by force back to the country.
Wow. To finish up, Erin, you are looking at the media coverage of the latest online fad that it sounds a lot more wholesome than it actually is.
That's right, Charlie. It's the latest fad sweeping the internet, and it is called Gongbang. Like you say, it's not what I was expecting it to be when I heard the name, but Gongbang is actually Korean for study with me. Now, these are essentially videos that can last anywhere between 2 and 12 hours, and they show unedited footage of people studying quietly. For Vice News, Charlie, these videos occupy a, quote, niche corner of the internet that blurs the lines between entertainment and ultra-mundane. This is a category that includes videos of people eating, of people sleeping, where it's exactly what it sounds like. You watch people doing mundane things. Well, as the Vice article says, this sense of companionship provided by Gongbang videos is even more palpable during the pandemic, where people are alone, they're doing classes from a distance, they can't go into classrooms. The article noting that these videos have a soothing appeal, both because of the therapeutic sounds of keys being typed on a keyboard, the pages of books turning, but also on a more practical level, they simply help people study in a time where they are very distracted and perhaps overwhelmed by
a lot of people missing co-working, libraries, etc. So this can try to fill the void. We got to do what we can in these times. Yeah. Erin, with a look at what's in the papers, thank you so much.
Thanks, Charlie.